We're back again on Studio Galaxy 473, and we are operating in Confero, and we are the Galaxy Equalizers. And this is the second part of our program, and it's just pure politics. This team today we're speaking about NNP, the rescue team. NNP claim that they're ready to rescue the country. The questions must be asked. Is NNP the rescue team? And if NNP decides to rescue, does NNP explain to their people, to NNP, their supporters, the enormity of the challenge that I face? And with us today, we have Master Carl and your humble servant. And we encourage you, as usual, to share our program. We are the new kids on the block. So share our program and subscribe to Studio Galaxy 473. NNP are advancing the position that they are the rescue team. Are they preparing the members and supporters for the enormity of the challenge post NDC? Master Carl, NNP claim they're the rescue team. Do they have the historical background? Are they the rescue team?
Well, to tell you what it is to tell you what it's not. NDC will do irreparable damage to the country. To borrow a phrase from you, the economy will be in free fall. So NNP presenting itself as a rescue team ought to educate its members about the job ahead. It's one thing to inform the people that's what is going on, but it's another thing to tell people because of what is going on, what will be required to fix what is going on. So it is a tall job, and we come back down to the word expectations. Would the NNP educate its members as to what the expectations of them, how or what part they would need the membership to play, and what is the expectations of the members going forward to rescue Grenada City?
Yes, well, the NNP as a political party, we must acknowledge, have been the most successful political party in Grenada and perhaps the Commonwealth. So with that in mind, perhaps they could beat their chest and say they have a history that people could feel comfortable with. Because they was in power for the longest period in history, 40 years. And 40 years for any political party must be significant. But in Grenada context, George Brizan wrote as the island of conflict. And Mr. Blaze say Grenada is like milk on fire.
As you turn your back.
It followed. And the Americans say it is a false calm. However, NNP as a party, under the leadership of Kit Mitchell, would have practically defied the sayings of all these individuals because they were able to keep the party united. And again, they are the only political entity in the Caribbean that was able to win election on 3 occasions and winning all the seats. So to a certain extent, people expect them But with that expectation from people could bring a sense of overconfidence and complacency.
Well, senior, the party NNP has become an institution. Now, the members, because we're talking about the enormity of rescuing Grenada, and rescuing Grenada is not or should not rest on the shoulder of any one or two individual or even a small clique. It has to be a all encompassing. You just use a word all the time, inclusive. So the party, in my view, has to speak to the members and let them know what the party expect of them going forward. First, you have to be inclusive. You must be inclusive. You cannot be tribal and the words real NNP and unreal NNP are not to be part of the conversation. Country before party. So to build country, party has to understand it has to be inclusive. Secondly, educate the masses. Persons are to be educated of the task ahead and the sacrifice that might be required to get Grenada back on track. Thirdly, the young ones, the young people, must be a part of any rescue mission. Fourth, the elders, the seniors, ought to be available for those young people senior. Because what you find happening, NNP did not lose election, in my view, for not performing. I don't think non-performance was the cause for NNP losing the last election. Persons would have their view, and I believe complacency was one of it. Because a lot of issues that came up in the campaign, because we must talk about that time when we talk about rescue, you know. A lot of issues that came up in the campaign by the no government, the NNP allowed them a free rein by saying anything. So education going forward to the masses ought to be undertaken. And most of the promises that got this government into power are those promises that is damaging the country. And to rescue is to fix. So we have to go through all those issues one by one, explaining what was said, explaining what is happening now, and explaining how it could be fixed. So persons will know what is required, what is the expectation. Because you cannot be as a party or the leadership of a party and saying we go rescue Grenada without the membership knowing what the task is. Then one thing we have to guard against, and you always saying that, we cannot preach this is our time because it's Grenada time. So we could say from here, NNP had the time he lose. Now it's NDC time. So the next time supposed to be Grenada time. So the rescue mission is not about a political party, but a country. And the country, senior, is bleeding. I'll give you a practical example. I was in I'm in the CMOS business. And, I went to export some CMOS yesterday. And the place I went, they say, watch, the thing gets so dead. We're doing 10% of business what we used to do between 2013 and 2022. So that to tell you the situation. There are some days when no one has come to export anything. And that is the reality of the situation. So when you speak about rescue, it's not about a particular sector. It's not about rescuing the agriculture sector or rescuing the economy. It's to resuscitate Grenada. Apart from the physical damage that is being done, mentally, senior, because of the actions of this government against a lot of poor people, as we say, poor people terrorists, mentally, they need to be rescued too. So that is why I say the membership ought to know what is expected of them in the rescue mission.
It is practically the first time in our political history that a party win election and the party is establishing a policy of open victimization. Every political party in Grenada have been accused of showing political preference. They say they're pushing their members here there. But these political parties have never acknowledged that that is my policy. In 2008, 2013, the NDC won election. But they never established a policy of victimization. Even if they practice it, but they never establish a policy. This present group of individuals establish a policy of victimization, restorative justice. And they also put the infrastructure in place to practicalize it. So when they implement restorative justice on the ground, they like to quote Maurice Bishop. As Maurice Bishop would say, based upon the workability, it is political vengeance. And the government established an arm called mobilization for sheer political mischief. So a number of people who are supporters of NNP or who it appears support NNP, because some of them are NDC that got victimized because they are close friends or the spouse or family members of NNP. They will be bitter. And that is basically human nature. The NNP have to reach these people and let them know they have to have a forgiving heart. And they must not expect to victimize in return. How does the party understand that not because their members was victimized is a right or justification or good thing for the members to feel are waiting for you when I win to victimize you? How does the party take on? Does the party recognize that that is an important factor? People lost their job.
Mm-hmm.
People was insulted. People, expulsion was cast. People was called classless. People was referred to as greedy and needy, commoners, good people. We are human beings. And obviously, these people will be affected and maybe waiting for an opportunity to behave likewise.
They're waiting for an opportunity of retribution.
Retribution.
But I don't believe, in my view, that part of the rescue mission ought to be retribution.
No. But the party, is the party prepared to prepare the people that there will be no retribution?
Well, the smart thinking would be not to prepare your people for that, because remember, the genesis of winning senior is numbers. You have to get more numbers than the opponent. And if you preaching retribution, would that attract more numbers?
Well, you may not preach that because nobody expected the NDC to do that.
No, we expected the way they used to speak about the Imanis and others. The utterances are the decision makers. When you heard the utterances like the Attorney General and them, we could have expected that. Maybe we didn't like to, we didn't want to, or just as you say, we didn't expect what he's saying. We thought it was only rhetoric. Remember, a lot of things they used to say, take wheelchair and this and that.
Yeah.
And when they came in, what the seed and other thing,
Trophy on them.
what they did is equivalent to that, even not staying in the Prime Minister's residence. That is the rhetoric we used to hear from the fractures.
I think we didn't believe.
We didn't believe it up.
We couldn't believe.
Because we thought it was rhetoric.
You see, again, because these individuals was brand new to politics, nobody expected them to be so bitter
We didn't think they ever asked
and
to grind.
vindictive. Well, what acts they had to grind? But it seems as though, so maybe, and that is, we cannot just assume, And that's why it's so important for NNP, even at this stage, to culture the people and to inform and to educate that people. We cannot go down the road of the National Democratic Congress. Their policy is divisive. It is destructive. It is counterproductive for development. We are a small society, and we have to work together. We can't go and victimize people. That might not have been a challenge when NNP win in 2013.
But no, it is.
But no, because of the gravity, the viciousness of the victimization by NDC, the NNP cannot ignore that as a challenge.
Because remember, a lot of the NDC disciples and politicos preach open victimization and retribution. Because listen this, when the teachers or the teachers union boss indicate to the nation that a lot of temporary and permanent teachers has not been paid, the answer by this government is there are NNP people still working and it's time to make them go. And they don't saying that in satire or saying that in code, They're saying it openly. They're preaching victimization openly. And what is sad, when the top brass of the NDC meet, you seeing those people among them. So it's not a case to say men on the ground what saying that. It's men of influence. When persons boast that certain decision the government make, they know about it 2 weeks or they knew about it before. And the same set of people openly calling to make NNP people go. You have to know what time is it. So you're writing asking, or writing suggesting, or inquiring, would the party prepare its members as part of the rescue mission that retribution is not part of it?
And that is not an easy task. We cannot ignore that this is not an easy task, because people who are affected, people is going to continue to be affected. One is the first time in the history of Grenada that you have a political party that established restorative justice as a policy. and also put in place the infrastructure, the
Yes.
mobilization
Yeah.
to go out and gather information to victimize people. No, it is just natural.
And what is sinister about it, senior? And one might say, why Monday morning quarterback? Now, the setting up, well, firstly, the Prime Minister quite clearly told the Tobago outfit, we campaign on transformation, but it's more about restorative justice.
Studio Galaxy 473, we're back again. Had some slight interruption with the power. It seems as though the electricity company is giving us some little jobs this morning. And that's one of the challenges as we in the Caribbean and particularly in Grenada seems to be in a hurry to go paperless. What do we have the infrastructure in place? Are we putting things in place? So when the current goes, the internet goes, everything goes. You're on standstill. Even the supermarkets now are practically on hold when current goes.
That is sad.
And so our program is affected, and I believe that the government is in too much haste, unnecessary haste, to go paperless. Our people are not prepared for it, and yes, we have to reach that stage, but there is no need to leave the majority of people behind.
They're not making haste slowly.
So we extend our apology to all those who are listening to us, and we return back to the fact that the new National Party, NNP, claim that they are ready and prepared to rescue Grenada post NDC. Obviously, the new National Party have a history. They are the only party, and they could say that. People must know that. And that's one of the challenges the new National Party have. They seem to have the information quiet. They must be able to say that the NNP is an institution.
They keep the information safe like CI briefcase.
Yes. 40 years. And 40 years, not in Barbados, in the island of conflict. That's where no other political party was able to win election on more than one occasion continuously post 1979. No other political party. So that is a big achievement. And they won election on 3 occasions, winning all the seats. No other political party had done that in the Commonwealth. And the NNP obviously is a party that is tolerant, inclusive, all-encompassing, very forgiving, and they are very sensitive, or they pay particular attention to the less fortunate and the people in the lower income group. Are they preparing the people for the challenge this time? The challenge this time is much greater than before.
Yeah, tougher one.
It's a tougher challenge because this NDC government is the worst group of people that have ever led the country. I don't think we have a group that is worse than that in the OECS or the Caribbean.
And what makes it difficult, senior? Apart from the effects of burial going forward, if you realize the policy, the financial or fiscal policy of this government is just to spend. So spend, suspend servicing of the debt, Fiscal Resiliency Act, spend willy-nilly. So not only would the NNP on a return to governance would have to salvage the economy, but the stress of the people ought to be considered and then rebuilding. Because no matter if election take 20 years under this fellas and them to come, they won't do nothing in terms of rebuilding Grenada. Because it's all about how they gonna make money off the people. Use the whatsoever funds is available to make profit for them. Because if you see the government put $25 million into GDP to make money off the backs of poor people. And even in the housing, the backer, they're not saying part of that $25 million persons who wants to own a home. Even the Chinese houses to say, well, you'll get concessionary terms, For a person say, okay, the lower income people could go to GDP and get money to purchase the homes. And that is sad, senior. So the rescue mission is one that would be not like before, senior. Not like rescuing from Ivan, MLE, Hurricane NDC from 2008 to 2013, the pandemic. It's going to be worse because unpaid claims in the treasury go be high. The deficit go be sky high. So a lot of things to be considered, senior.
Yes, I think sometimes I believe that the NNP have to spend some time educating the people about the enormity of the problem, because the people could expect magic. They say, yes, you did it before, but you could do it now. You're dealing with pathological liars. The prime minister and the government, they tell lies without compunction. Every minister telling lies. They're legalizing illegality. They flaunt the laws with impunity, and they raid the GDP bank. You hear people on the ground calling them poor people terrorists, vultures, because they take money from the elderly, the physically challenged, and disadvantaged children. Nobody does that. If you have a son that rob old people, people cry, robbery is wrong. But if you rob the elderly, the physically challenged, and even disadvantaged children was affected and had to drop out from college because the NDC removes the assistance that was provided for them. The level of hostility to the elderly is unmatched. And after 50 years of independence, it doeth appear that we have a third party controlling our foreign policy. Your independence, the biggest difference in our independence and statehood in what we got in 1967 was the fact that we control our foreign policy. So if today it appears that a foreign power, a foreign force, a big company, or individual, we don't know which one. Whether it's a foreign power, whether it is a company, whether it is a group of people or individuals, they seem to be controlling our foreign policy. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, when he vociferously and vehemently object to the signing the Samoa Agreement, because he said it would contradict the very constitution. From that time, it appears that the Prime Minister has taken over the position of Foreign Affairs.
Emasculating one time.
The Foreign Minister has been emasculated and domesticated for public ridicule. The Prime Minister is now acting as, well, he is performing the role
He's the more Foreign Minister
of Foreign Affairs, but I guess he don't want the public to know, so the Minister of Foreign Affairs have been reduced to scrap.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister left Grenada to go to Rwanda, Africa, bearing in mind that there was a disease outbreak in that region. Did the Prime Minister go willingly? Was he summoned? This thing must be baffling.
Was he coerced?
Was he coerced? Did he have a choice? Was he threatened? Was he intimidated?
And what is strange, you see the photo with him, but I don't find I make out the Foreign Minister in the photo.
The Foreign Minister perhaps was not around. We know nothing about him. I saw another gentleman. Maybe he's part of the elite team of the National Democratic
Congress, advisorial,
because his name has always been popping up. And the individual is not a front man. He's a very subtle man. He operates from the lab. So why the Prime Minister went in that part of the world?
And why he exposed that man in the picture?
Why did he expose even family members to a disease? You see, it's like watching a movie.
And the disease don't have cure yet, eh?
Don't have cure. Was he threatened? I am particularly worried that this Prime Minister we have, somebody else is managing his burden.
But remember, when the Prime Minister party won election, we heard about this African who said he was an ambassador already, and all kind of doubt making around the same region. The same region he know. Remember that ambassador? And he said the man just take out a picture with him. Picture.
50 years of independence. That is a betrayal of grandiose proportion. We struggled for independence.
But see, now you talk about rescue mission.
Well, yes,
and I just need to say this. And you're right in asking what the NNP as a party intends to do or intends to ask its members or prepare its membership for the rescue mission. Because NNP, part of the rescue mission would be economic growth. Part of the rescue mission is it will be to reduce unemployment. Part of the rescue mission is going to be to once again rescue the country for development or development partners, like people like the IMF, the World Bank, the EU, and the CDB. Part of the rescue mission will be lowering the deficit, the government deficit. So government, because this government is living out of its means. Because the fact that only Carrick could get mashed up, and they have all the revenue generating streams, and they have to suspend the Fiscal Resiliency Act and stop paying money, that means government living outside of its means. Unpaid claims in the treasury would be have to paid. We must have increase in capital expenditure to spend more on road, school, hospital, and projects to grow and the economy and create jobs. All that is part of the rescue mission. We must get investor confidence once again, because it seems like investors don't have no confidence in this government. We don't see nothing. After all this song and dance about how much passport was sold for investors, we not see no capital project. So that translated, investors have no confidence here. So we want to know under what terms of reference this passport is being sold. Because if a spin-off ought to be, or a side effect of buying a passport ought to be senior, you have to invest. We're not seeing the investment. Public workers start to ball out because they don't get in pay and all kind of nonsense. They pay in late and all this kind of thing. And hope for the population, not only for NNP people, the population ought to be rescued. So, senior, these are some of the things that ought to be considered. And like you say, the membership of the NNP ought to understand those things on them. And it may not be easy, senior. It may not be by the stroke of a pen. So people have to understand it will take shared sacrifice.
And we must never forget the mental and psychosocial state, because here you have a people where the government was practicing political vengeance on, and they too might want the pound of flesh. And if the NNP do not spend the time informing and educating the people, there will be no pound of flesh. We have to forgive. We have to be inclusive. We have to be all encompassing. They have to, because obviously people has been hurt. Could you imagine you have people lost their job in Carriacou, and the permanent secretary in Carriacou that I considered as a rogue permanent secretary would not meet with the Ministry of Labor for the Ministry of Labor to have an amicable settlement. The union doesn't seem to have all this passion for the case. And the Prime Minister tell them, go and get lawyers. Bearing in mind that these people can't pay lawyers. And the first step is for the case to be discussed at the Ministry of Labor. So 2 years, these people is languishing, hopeless.
So we demand, senior, that the government treat with and pay those people on it.
Well, it's not only true to the fire them.
Yeah, but treat with means to pay them, compensate them.
The Prime Minister tell them, go and get lawyers. Take the matter to court. And the Ministry of Labor, the permanent secretary, not discussing to the Ministry of Labor. And the union does not seem to care.
And the Minister of Labor already give her verdict.
And the Minister of Labor give their verdict. So, there's a number of cases like that. And that is where NNP have to recognize you win election and all these people expect you to address their issues soonest. And you have to prepare your people that these things cannot be done overnight. But also you have to try to get your people to peacefully exist with the individuals who have just persecuted them. You have to tell them forgive. Reconciliation. Forgiveness. This NNP, go back and watch our history for everybody. They have the people. They have the capacity. I have no doubt that the group of people that I see involved in NNP, they have the capacity. They have the history. But they must prepare. Because when people do you wrong, the natural course is to do them back.
Senior, as we speak, rescuing. Before the rescue mission starts, the seat of government ought to be secured. Don't you think so?
Well, they
Would
wouldn't
NNP as a party rescue without not
no,
being
no,
in
they
government?
can't do that.
So,
While they could be, even now, sometimes I'm not convinced that they're doing all within their power to challenge the government on issues. Because you could start to rescue all now,
they were asking
by
you.
making demands and insisting. I don't hear NNP coming out strong enough on the 100 house unit
Carrico.
in Carrico. I don't hear NNP screaming about the excessive traveling. They seem to be traveling without any justification. I don't hear NNP worried about the fact that we have a government that we seem to have a third party
In charge.
in charge. These are fundamental issues, not only NNP, but even the trade union and every group in the country is supposed to be concerned. Because our independence depends on government of Grenada managing and controlling the foreign policy. We understand that we are a small country and we have to demolate among the big watches.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have a rogue, a criminal group. You could have a rich group, a criminal group trying to infiltrate and manage a country. And the level of what appear to be bribery, I don't hear NNP making enough noise on that. The Integrity Commission, all these things, they could be louder on.
Because the case in point, we have a case in point now. The whole travel episode with the Prime Minister is it what it is. But we're picking up information that the gentleman has sponsored the trip. Was that indicated to the Integrity Commission?
That's bribery. That's bribery. I don't joke with this thing. That's your prime minister. Now, what agreements this prime minister is signing outside there that Grenada would be left to hold on to? If rich individuals, and there are rich individuals in the world, these Grenadians who say they're rich, they're poor like what? You have billionaires in the world. You have people who are billionaires. One of the guys in the Arab country, a long time I can't remember, he went to Switzerland to take out the teeth. And he went with an entourage of 400 people. 40, I believe it's 40 people, not 400. He went with an entourage of 40 people. One of the individuals from Saudi Arabia, one of the princes, who take out the teeth. And he ran the whole hotel and left them with $1 million for tip. You have rich people in the world. So, in terms of Grenada economy is small to what people. Richard Button bought a diamond for Elizabeth Taylor for $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
Poverty buy a ship and he converted it into a yacht and he bought a helicopter for Jacqueline Kennedy to go on the. You have rich people in the world. So if you have some individual who are criminals, who are unscrupulous, and who decide to use bribery to influence and control the decisions Grenada make, all of us have to be concerned. If you hear a political party under 2 years constantly associated with bribery, 160,000, a gracious offer, a sweet spot, you hear about gifts in excess of 30,000 US. You have a prime minister flying without no justification, no rhyme, no reason. Flying. It take over the position of the Minister of Foreign Affairs because maybe they feel let down in the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Maybe they're comfortable with the palpation of that which is around his neck.
But hear this thing. Hear this thing, Mr. Pierre, and it's right up in support of what you're saying. The New York mayor has been indicted for accepting tickets from a foreign country. Right now in America, the mayor of New York City is being indicted for accepting tickets from a foreign country. And the prime minister, information suggests, went on a trip. And I won't call that a trip. You hear the word frolic?
He was summoned. You don't know if he was ordered to go.
And
the
then,
man went close to a danger zone.
And then they saying how is somebody who had paid for the trip. But in some jurisdiction, men could go in jail for that,
Well, that's bribery. You can't pay for a trip for the prime minister. That's bribery.
That's sad,
We went through a situation like that many years ago when people made issue that Kit Mitchell received money from Steiner.
Yeah.
Oh, and we had an investigation from a jurist from Barbados. So now you have a prime minister that is flying all over the world and ending up in strange place, going close to an area where there was a known breakout of a disease. What the prime minister doing down there? Could it be that the prime minister had no choice? His masters called him and he had to go.
Maybe he was summoned.
Well, the NNP have to recognize, if that is so, what agreements the prime minister of Grenada is signing that would be a milestone around the neck of the people.
Wait.
They have to explain, the NNP have to tell the people that.
Wait the return of the prime minister to hear why this thing was necessary.
Well, what reason the prime minister? A justification. Normally, when you want a rainfall on the galvanized, it was going Dubai. So what you doing going close to an area where there are no a disease breakout?
And what is strange, he knew beforehand not to say anything in the air.
I mean, maybe the people must have ball give him.
Or was it just a trick?
No, it's not a trick. They must summon the prime minister there.
And how come he end up in the next place?
The prime minister lying as well.
And remember, they say the whole thing is about first class travel, so they're not by accident.
And he have his entourage. He doesn't travel without a cameraman and his.
And who the foreign minister in all of this?
The foreign minister not there. The foreign minister has been emasculated. The foreign minister is a disgrace to his constituency. The foreign minister spoke. He evoked revolutionary fervor to speak out against the Somo argument. While these men was there, and I believe the foreign minister, I didn't believe the prime minister, the agreement was signed. They never recalled the ambassador. And the ambassador cannot sign an agreement like that without the authority of the prime minister or superforce. So it means that in Grenada, that we have a third party that hold the prime minister of Grenada head. And this is not a joke. And the NNP speaking about rescue. But you have to educate people of the magnitude of the challenge that you're likely to have. They themselves does not realize, they don't know the magnitude of the challenge. They don't know whether or not we have a third force that perhaps have or even blackmailing the prime minister.
But we wonder of that all, when the whole thing about travel came up and the question was asked about how much money is. And one of the persons, I think, what is some ambassador for the diaspora, made a reference about the minister or the chancellor of the exchequer. They indicated that some of the trips was not paid for by government. So I asked the question, what's about quid pro quo? what would those people want in return to paying for the trips? The question begs, this man, they say he worth $13 million. What would he want for paying for this trip? What he expect in return? And these are the things, senior, for the NNP ought to rescue the country from.
And my concern is they have to educate the public. The people are jumping up behind you, particularly the women. These people, you cannot shaft them. You cannot, because if you go inside this place without preparing your people of the magnitude of the challenge, this prime minister, you cannot trust him. He's telling a lot of lies. And he may well be in a situation where he is manipulated, where he's a stooge. You don't know if this prime minister is blackmailed. You don't know. The prime minister is not answering questions. He seems to have a political gag on his ministers. The foreign minister choking. Can't speak. This foreign minister perhaps is such a disgrace to his constituency.
But he was the man that evoked the good people.
Well, very early.
So good people turn bad?
Well, I don't know who good and who bad again, but I take these things seriously because...
Yeah, but back to it, senior. What is the expectation of the NNP supporters in the whole part of the rescue mission? What is expected of the supporters?
Well, the supporters, obviously, the first thing to do, irrespective of what happens, to go and vote out NDC lab stock and barrel.
All right.
But in the process is that the supporters must know this is not 2013. This is a situation where, because we don't know what this prime minister is signing. We don't know what the prime minister is doing. The prime minister wrote the GDB bank. We have 100 house unit in Karakou. The prime minister refused to give the poor the poor.
What is the expectations as it relates to the rescue mission? What is expected of the young people, senior?
Young people, people speak a lot about young people, and I say young people have to be provided with information. And they have to know that they have to be part of the political process. I believe our children in school today is much more naive than children yesteryear. Yesteryear, children was much more involved in the politics and understanding. And even that is dangerous, because if our children live in school with better certification, but it seems not to be too concerned about the politics and the political process, then that's a dangerous thing. So the NNP have to provide education for them, informing them of these issues, making them know your future could be buried with these decisions, because government could make decision now that you have to pay for.
Yes.
A milestone around it. The NNP have to spend time encouraging the supporters
because
to
some
forgive.
maybe you don't know what argument he's saying that could be an albatross around the neck of the Grenadian people.
Of course. He's the prime minister, first among equal. He's the foreign minister now. Sometimes the poor foreign minister has been so emasculated and domesticated for public ridicule that he don't have a clue
as to what's going on.
Maybe he's just getting paid as foreign minister. But the role has been removed from him.
Yeah,
I don't see
the decision-making process maybe is not easy anymore.
No, the decision-making process is not easy. And some important things that are discussed, the foreign
in lieu
minister
of him, he doesn't know.
Because I don't believe the foreign minister is part of the second cabinet.
No, he's not part of the first cabinet.
He's not part of the first cabinet.
The real cabinet, and then maybe he sits in the.
They come and inform him
Yeah.
what are the decisions, because
Some of the decisions.
yes, a lot of these ministers.
So we come to the end of the time.
Time flies.
Yes.
I think the NNP, you're an institution. 40 years is not time for you to make rudimentary mistakes.
No.
Among your team, you have people who have been there with you for over the last 2 terms when you were at your best. And I thought the last 2 terms of NNP was at the best. None of the ministers brought the NNP into disrepute.
One thing I've learned over the last term of the NNP, it convinces me that politics is grassroots.
Of course.
Anytime you forget the grassroots, or you seem not to be in connection with the grassroots, it's a problem.
But in addition to that, the ministers was humble. I thought they were very frugal. I thought they were generally very honest.
But what happened on the
None of them brought the party into disrepute, and I have confidence in all the ministers of the government.
But what has happened? What happened?
I don't think anything happened. Because you like it to have a change in the guard. There'll be bruises, minor bruises. There'll be slight lacerations, and there'll be hairline fractures.
You must
That is expected. But I don't expect cracks. There is no justification for cracks, because all the ministers and all the people are there. I think they come from the boils, from the belly of NNP. I think they are genuine, and they will help to project the party. And particularly, I pick up that from a quiet man in the rum shop that was hardly talking. He said during the 2008-2013 period, when NDC was breaking up like creeks, he said one of the problems with one of the main differences between 2 political parties is that NDC don't have referees. So you say every little issue gone through. But NNP have a lot of referees. And I believe NNP have the depth, the capacity, and the people that could keep that party without cracks.
Right.
You might find hairline cracks and little laceration, but generally, and they must recognize themselves as an institution. I would like to see in the future.
If you don't deal with the hairline cracks, it could get worse.
Yes, but I would like to see in the future NNP fix the convention dates. You know, like in the United States, even though they put it a month, where October and December is our convention month. So that is one of the ways of strengthening your party. You have a fixed month. Come what may, you don't have to go to the date, and they have a election process that is free, that is above board, and say win.
Yeah, man.
And you galvanize behind it.
Win, we have to get behind that.
We on the Galaxy Equalizers, we provoke discussion. You might find we're going to spend a lot of time on Dick Mitchell and his traveling. Whether or not Dick is controlling his brain, we are worried that somebody have Dick in head and is managing his head. And he is no ordinary person. He is the first among equals. He's the Prime Minister of Grenada. And if a third power, if a third unscrupulous force have the head of Dick, John B. Takers, we want to thank you very much.